Hey, welcome back to my channel, Just Doing Great Things. Today, it's going to be apple dumplings. Now, I've given you some choices with this recipe. One of the crusts that I got from Taste of Lizzy tea is a nice soft pillowy crust, whereas the crust I'm going to use today is going to be more of a flaky kind of crust. To me, every recipe should have options, and sometimes I want that soft pillowy crust and sometimes I don't. So we're going to open it up to giving you options today. I'm going to make some of the dumplings by using a half of an apple, because some of the people in my family like smaller apple dumplings, and some of them are going to be the full-size dumplings. I may do this a little bit different than some people would do it, but this is how I do it. And I found this recipe, like I said, from the Taste of Lizzy tea, and I combined it with another dough recipe, a crust recipe, a pie crust recipe from another book. I don't know who to credit for that one. If I did, I would. Okay. But these are really good. I've made them a few times, and they're fun to make and they're delicious. So that's what we're going to make today, is apple dumplings. Hopefully you'll enjoy this recipe. All right, the first step in this process is we're going to prepare the apples. I've got this combination apple peeler core and slicer, and you just put the apple in there and turn the handle and it does its work. It works pretty well, but sometimes somewhat frustrating. Okay, but anyhow, all you got to do is put the apple on it, and today we are using honeycrisp apples because I couldn't find any Jonathans. They're just not available right now. But we're going to take them, and it's going to peel it, core it, and slice it all at the same time. And then I put it in that cold water so that they don't turn brown. It's a little messy, but it seems to work real well. And it gets most of the peeling off. Whatever doesn't get off, I take a knife and go back there and fix it. So that is the combo peeler right there, and it's really cool. But not everybody has one, correct? So the next step, I'm just going to show you how I do it when I don't have that available. I'm just going to peel the apples, and I'm going to take the tops off and the bottom off, and then I'm just going to take the peeling off and divide it in two, and take the core out with the same knife, and then I'm going to slice it up. It's a little more tedious, a little more time consuming, but it works. Now, I guess if everybody's like me, they have their favorite knife for doing something like this. I've used that knife right there for 30 years, and it's my favorite knife when I have to peel something. I don't know if it's a good knife. I don't know if it's a bad knife, but it's the one I like to use. And I've made a lot of apple pies and a lot of apple dumplings, so it seems to work. And of course, we're going to put those into the cold water so that they don't turn brown. You can make these as thin or as thick as you want to make them. It's your preference. It's your apple dumplings. At this time I'm going to need a stick of melted butter, some cinnamon sugar, I mixed that myself, and I need a little brush so I can put the butter onto the apples. I'm going to take the apples out of the cold water one at a time, once again so they don't turn brown. Cut them in half, lay them out on the paper towels so they can dry a little bit. Don't need a bunch of water on them. Water and butter, which is our next step, don't mix very well. So we're going to lay them out, let them dry off. The top side will air dry, the bottom side will dry on the paper towel. Going to get them all laid out, and then we're going to brush them with butter. The ones that haven't been cut in half, we're going to cut them in half. Now it's time for the butter. I'm going to coat each one of them pretty well, from side to side. I don't know about you, but there's something about butter that just makes things taste better. And why skimp on the butter? I'm going to use it as a bonding agent so that the cinnamon sugar will stay on apples. So, why skimp on the butter? No point in that. And now it's time for the cinnamon sugar. Now I'm going to try not to skimp on this too. If there's anything in this world that is a great go-together, it's cinnamon and sugar. I'm going to sprinkle on there liberally. I want to be able to taste cinnamon sugar along with the apples. And I'm going to take these and I'm going to turn them upside down so that we can prepare the other side. Once again, plenty of butter on each one of them. If I run out of butter in this part of the process, I'm going to melt some more, and I'm going to get it on there right. Coating them real well. If you have some butter left over, that's okay. You don't have to use all of it, but I want to use most of it. And then back with the cinnamon and sugar. Nice, good liberal coating on every single one of them. If I run out of cinnamon sugar, I'll make some more. Now it's time to make the sauce. You're going to need 2 cups of brown sugar, 2 cups of water, 1/4 cup of butter, and a ½ teaspoon of cinnamon. I think I even cheated a little bit, and I think I put a full teaspoon in cinnamon. And like I said earlier, I do like my cinnamon, so chances are that's exactly what I did. So now we've got to make this sauce. Okay, so I'm going to take the butter, and I've got the water already heating up. I'm going to take that butter and I'm going to slice it up just so it melts easier, and it's not just a big old chunk of butter sitting in there. I like to slice it up and make it thinner so it melts better. I'm going to stir that up. You can see that the water has warmed up a little bit, so it's starting to melt that butter. Now it's time to add the 2 cups of brown sugar. There goes 1 cup. And cup number 2. I'm going to try to hold it down close to that water so I don't splash it on me. That brown sugar will clump together, and when it hits that water, it's going to cause a splash. It's got a little weight behind it. I'm going to add the cinnamon. And mix. And that's going to be a common theme while this is cooking, is you've got to keep mixing it. You've got to keep stirring it, otherwise it's going to stick to the bottom of the pan, and we don't want that. So this has to come to a full boil. So, you know, keep a close eye on it, stir it up every once in a while, and eventually it will come to a boil. And with the use of magic, it's already coming to a boil. And we are going to set this off to the side and go to the next step. Now it's time to make the dough for the crust. You're going to need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 10 tablespoons of Crisco, or I'm going to use butter flavored Crisco, 6 tablespoons of cold water, and a pinch of salt. So in a medium bowl, I'm going to combine the flour, baking powder, and salt. And then I will mix in the butter flavored Crisco. I like to always combine my dry ingredients with a whisk, just so they're all mixed together before I ever add anything else. And once again, I like to slice up my butter just like I did in the water a few minutes ago. I'm gonna slice up the butter into the flour. I don't know. To me, it just seems like it works better. It combines easier. But that's what I do, and if you've got a different way of doing it, then that's fine. It works for you. You do it. But this is how I do it, and then I try to get flour on all the little pieces, because the next step, I'm going to take my cutter and I'm going to blend it together, and it's going to be less likely to stick if everything has a little flour on it. Is it going to stick? Absolutely. You're going to have to take that stuff off repeatedly. But what we're trying to do here is we're trying to cut all that Crisco into the flour, so it's combined very well. And what you're going to end up with, little bitty pieces of butter flavored Crisco that are going to be perfect for this. And you're going to be able to see it in the dough later on. I do the same thing with biscuits. Seems to work. Now it's time to add water. I'm not going to pour the whole bowl in there. I'm gonna go just probably a tablespoon at a time, and I'm gonna try to blend it together with a fork. And you can see the chunks of butter all mixed up in there. It looks pretty good. But I'm gonna mix that with a fork, and then I'm gonna add water, mix it with a fork, add water, mix it with a fork, until it's all combined. Eventually I'm gonna get in there with my hands and form like a patty with it. Kind of do the final blending together. If you don't use a fork and you try to mix this with your hands, it's going to get all gooey and stick to your fingers because it's really, really tacky at first. But as you add water and mix it together, it becomes less tacky and everything starts blending together better. This is the part where I'm blending it together with my hands, and I'm basically going to kind of make it into a patty after it's all blended together and mixed well. Looks like I've got it just about where I want it. So now to prepare my surface. Need to flour that surface so I can roll it out. Sometimes I use a sifter to do this. It just seems like it's a little more even if I use a sifter. Get the rolling pin, make sure I put a little flour on it so it doesn't stick to the rolling pan. I'm going to try to form it into like a rectangle because what I'm wanting to do here is to create 6 even pieces because I have 6 apples. Now I am going to basically create 8 pieces, 4 big pieces and 4 small pieces because I'm going to do some half apples instead of the full apples. But basically what I'm shooting for at first is 6 equal pieces. One for each apple that we peeled and cored and sliced. So now I've got it into 6 pieces, and I'm going to take the end ones and I'm going to take those and cut them in half. Now I have 4 big pieces, 4 small pieces. The big pieces are for the full apples, and the small pieces of course are for the half apples. Once again, spread my flour out so that the surface is ready and it doesn't stick. I'm going to take the half apple and put it inside that I've flattened out. Put it in there, and then I'm going to pinch it together on top. And there's my first one. Take the next small piece, flatten it out, roll it out, put another half apple inside of it. Trying to go all directions with it. Sorry my arm's in the way. I haven't quite figured out all this yet, but I'm getting there. Alright, I'm going to pinch that together and put that in the pan. Now we're going to skip over to the full size apples. We're going to take a couple of these and flatten them out and do a full size apple. I try to get this as even as I possibly can, so that when we fold it over, you've got flaps that are all equal. But I'd take two of the halves, put them in there, and this time I'm going to put it up on its end so that the hole in the middle is sticking up, and I kind of fold that into that hole and pinch it right there above that hole, and that's what it looks like when it's all done. And put that in the pan. Do that to all of your apples, and as you can see, I'm going to end up with 4 big ones, 4 small ones. And there we go. We've got us a full pan. Try to get this over here, you get a better look. There we go. That's the full pan. Now that we've got the apple dumplings put together, now it's time to add the sauce. And what you're going to do is you're going to pour a ladleful over each one of the apple dumplings. And I'm going to continue to do this to each one of the apples until I've used up about 2/3 of the sauce on the apples. You want that puddle that they're laying in, you want that to be fairly deep, but you want to have about 1/3 of this left over so that you will be able to put some on later on if you choose to do so. And that just about gets us down to about 1/3 of the pan. Now it's time to go into the oven. 350 degrees. I'm going to set it for 30 minutes and start checking it at that point. It usually takes over 30 minutes, but I don't want to burn them. So I'm going to keep an eye on them and set it for 30 minutes, and then we'll see what we end up with. There they are. That's what they look like when they're done. Apple dumplings. I think you're going to love it. And it's especially good if you serve it with a little bit of ice cream. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for watching this.